Good morning, everyone. I'm Tristan Carson, and here's my second speech. I believe that the personalities of each and every individual are unique, and I do not believe that they are fully calculable by a standard personality test. So, I decided to take my hypothesis and do a little research. And so, I decided to take a personality test and see how it accurately or inaccurately portrays what I know about myself. The personality test I took was the 16 personalities test, which claims that 189 million tests have been taken in the United States alone. The 16 personalities test states that out of 1,473,000,000 tests, 92.1% of results are considered accurate or very accurate. Research shown in this paper reveals the accuracy of an attempt I made to match personality tests to an individual such as myself. And I will also review whether this is an acceptable and helpful way to understand one's own personality. First, let us start by understanding how the test works. The test begins by making the participants answer a series of questions, asking whether you agree or disagree with the statement that is being said about yourself. Questions formatted such as, you would rather be doing something alone rather than with a group of people. Then, you answer the question on a 7-mark scale of agree to disagree, based on whether you think that question fits your perceived self or not. The test then takes your answers to those questions and puts the answers into an algorithm and assigns you one of the 16 different personality types that best suit the answers that you gave. I decided to take the 16 personalities test, and here's what I found out. The test labeled me a campaigner, or ENFP-A. The campaigner overview states that this personality type is someone who the test claims to be a vibrant force of enthusiasm, creativity, and idealism. This means that according to the test, I am a dreamer with a mission, driven by a deep-seated desire to make the world a better place. One downside the test states campaigner personality types struggle with is your mind moving at lightning speed, jumping from one exciting idea to another, which can make things difficult to focus on mundane tasks or stick to routines. Do I believe this test was accurate? No, I do not. There are some vague traits in which I believe the test did accurately portray, such as my enjoyment of creativity and quest for authenticity. However, I believe the test does not accurately portray the finer details of my personality. What I mean to say is, I'm not expecting it to tell me every detail about myself, but rather, the things that it is saying are wrong. Sure, some of the points are expected to be wrong because it's supposed to be broad, covering a wide range of individuals that are labeled ENFP-A. However, for example, when the test states that as a campaigner, you may find yourself starting numerous projects with gusto, only to leave them unfinished when a new, more exciting prospect catches your eye. From what I know about myself, while leaving room to be wrong, I understand that I am not one to take on multiple tasks in the first place, prioritizing finishing tasks already started before moving on to other tasks that beckon my attention. This is not the only instance where this categorical accident occurs. At the very beginning, what I believe to be the original mistake is in the very name itself, ENFP-A. These letters each stand for a separate scale in which you scored in based on your answers to the questions asked at the beginning of the quiz. The 5 scales are as follows: mind, energy, nature, tactics, and identity. The answer ENFP-A stands for extroverted, intuitive, feeling, prospecting, and assertive. These answers are what form the different personalities, and this is where I believe my test. These answers are what form the different personalities, and this is where I believe my test made a mistake. I'm not an extrovert. I am a high-energy introvert, meaning I have a high battery, but I require solitude to regenerate. This one mistake means the whole answer that it gave me as a campaigner would be compromised. This explains why it does not describe me. Now, let's go on to why this isn't a good test to take at all for anybody. There are 2 major problems that I have found with the 16 personalities test that make it an unreliable source of information. 1, the only information the test has to go off of in order to make an analysis of your personality is that of which you perceive yourself. And 2, The test uses a deterministic algorithm, which in short means that there are a set number of outputs for an infinite number of inputs. The only information the test has access to in order to build a personality is the information that you give it. The problem stems from the Johara window, a four-square graph labeled open self, hidden self, blind self, and unknown self. The open self represents the part of yourself that you are aware of and that others are aware of. The hidden self represents the parts of yourself that you're aware of, but that other people aren't aware of. The blind self represents parts of yourself that you're not aware of, but others are. And lastly, the unknown self represents the part of yourself that you're not aware of and that other people aren't aware of. So, the issue then lies in the formatting of the personality test. Because the test is something taken alone, you are only actually pulling from about 50% of your personality, therefore making the results represent the parts of yourself that you want to hear, because nothing is ever challenged from an outside source as actually being correct. This then ultimately explains the high positive rating score, because the test feeds into a metaphorical echo chamber. Finally, my last problem with the 16 personalities test is the algorithm in which it uses to place individuals in certain categories. The test uses a hashing algorithm. A hashing algorithm is an algorithm in which there are a finite number of outputs, or personalities in this case, for an infinite number, or 3.23 with 84 zeros following it, in this case, of unique inputs. This is possibly because of a hashing algorithm is deterministic in nature, meaning that if given the same input, it will always give the same output. This is where the issue lies. A personality test, a test used to determine the unique personalities of an individual, is only ever able to come up with 16 different answers, no matter what set of answers is put in. Think of it in terms of processing and compounding. If two individuals give different answers, if they choose most of the same answers, they would both be given this same personality type, thus ignoring the other unique answers given. This plays into a logical fallacy known as a false dichotomy, or in this case, a false hexadecadichotomy, a flaw that oversimplifies complex issues by providing multiple, in this case 16, extreme, mutually exclusive options. And that is why I believe that online personality tests are not accurate sources of information. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.